It likes things that are shiny because they are shiny like ice, so is shiny. And it likes to put them in ice because also it's shiny. Hi, I'm Emme.
And I'm RJ.
And welcome back to the Bestiary Monster Manual A through Z. And RJ, what are we continuing to talk about today?
White and silver dragons, those beasts that live high up in the mountains, among the clouds, or deep in the depths of an ice cave. So excited.
Yes, we're on to the particularly fascinating cold-breathing dragons this week. We're still able to pair elements right now, which is nice. And these are the paler dragons. So we'll start with jumping right into the chromatics with the white. This is a nasty customer. White dragons are particularly known for their bestial nature. So unlike a lot of other dragons which have schemes and plans and ideas for how they're going to gain power or wealth or knowledge, these guys want to hunt. They want to have the biggest land. They want to have the most food. They want to own everything with their raw physical power.
It definitely lends itself to the desolate, the barren, snow-covered tundras that you might think come along with an icy campaign. It's all about survival. It's all about those primal instincts needed to live and survive in the most extreme conditions.
It really harkens back to me about a lot of horror movies and horror tales that have to do with being isolated in the cold. That there's something out there that just wants to eat you, which I think comes from that natural fear we have of the things that live in the dark and in the cold, which are by nature territorial and hungry because they have to be. And this guy fits really nicely into that predator with one singular purpose and goal. Looking at the art, I know I was seeing Big Cat initially looking at this guy, that there's something ferocious about him. He's low slung to the ground. He's hunting you. He's not necessarily trying to sneak up on you as much as trying to get the best position to pounce on you.
It has very powerful hindquarters, I imagine, kind of like a snow tiger or a snow leopard. This is something you need to keep a wary eye out. He might be stalking you from the cliffs above.
Yes, he's deeply muscular looking. I know I had a dog who had just these extremely big and pronounced hindquarter muscles, and right above her arms as well. Her arms. She's a dog, but what would have been her arms? And I remember that dog killed more critters in my parents' backyard. It was insane. She was built like a hunter, and that's what she did. And I see a lot of that same build in here with that strong neck. Everything about this looks like it's about to rip you up and tear you apart. The eyes, I mean, it's got an intelligence of 10, so this is not a beast in the traditional sense. It is still thinking about you. It is still a person like all dragons, but there's that sense that it's not thinking too hard about your motives. It's not thinking about who you are or how it can best manipulate you. It's thinking about where you're going to be next so it can try and chomp on you.
Yeah, this is definitely not a creature that's going to try and lure you into a trap. It's not quite that cunning, but should you stumble accidentally upon its lair or the prey that it deems that it deserves, you're gonna meet the wrong end of those jaws. But the low intelligence of a mere 10 does allow it to potentially be dominated or mastered by other more powerful beings. One of the most encouraging and or terrifying aspects is a potential clan of frost giants has overcome one of these white dragons and has broken its will and is now serving these huge titans of the north.
Yes, so these guys, being very predatory, keep isolated. They really only come together to mate, and I know all dragons are solitary, but these ones are primarily the most solitary because of the way that they keep everything. The way that they hold power is through land and keeping their things, and they want it and it's theirs. And frost giants take that as a challenge. So if a frost giant can defeat a white dragon, the white dragon is usually kept in servitude of it, which is such a nasty ambiance to me. The idea of going up to maybe do fighting with some frost giants, or sometimes you might have something that you have to do with frost giants. I know I've played campaigns where you actually have to talk to them even though they're nasty customers. But the idea of walking in and, oh, there's 2 young white dragons being kept at the door, that tells you a lot about the power of those particular giants. I can't imagine them holding anything more than a young, maybe an adult white dragon, and I imagine that balance doesn't last past it getting older or more powerful. I imagine they'd either have to kill it or release it, although if they release it, they're not particularly prone to plans, but they are prone to vengeance. If they have been wronged or slighted, they will go after you. They will continue to hunt you, and they're very fond of putting trophies of their vengeance by the front door of their lairs.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason why this ancient white dragon might present fallen foes that it has frozen in the ice at the front of its lair to ward off any potential invaders. Even among its layers, in its lair itself, it will, freeze its own food for later consumption. Or it will, freeze its treasures deep within the ice, making it that much more difficult for somebody to walk away with.
That's one of my favorite weird and bizarre things about this dragon is that, yes, it's animalistic and it's out there to hunt. It really only eats its food if it's been frozen first. And I'm like, this is the moment you're choosing to be fussy, white dragon? Okay, sure. So yeah, it freezes its food, and if it thinks that this particular foe was worthy, it might at the very least leave its bones encased in ice outside, if not the entire creature itself. And an ancient dragon does have walls of ice that surround it that are about 6-inch thick, that are immune to a whole bunch of damage, and it's just a giant pain in the patootie to get in there anyway. So it might just be leaving the bones of a frost giant or a remoraz or another freaking dragon out front, and that's I can't imagine wanting to go in to fight a white dragon and seeing that and just go
the scope of intimidation left by this creature is just staggering. And boy, I particularly am from a cold weather state. I grew up in Wisconsin. I consider myself, thick-skinned, but the preparation you would need to consider taking a trek into the deep frozen regions of whatever plane you're on to try and interact with this thing is just mind-blowing. I could not wrap my head around what kind of precautions you need to take.
That's a very interesting point, and that you would have to, if you're going to go to a white dragon's lair, be prepared for it's that don't siege Russia in the dead of winter technique of this guy has the entire environment around him set to go against you. Ancient dragons that have lairs have essentially blizzard conditions getting up front, so just getting in is already very terrifying, and the conditions in there are so cold that, like you were saying, it likes to freeze its treasure just to make it even all that much harder to get to. So if you're trying to sneak in and get its stuff, no dice. But it means that in order to maintain that ice, it has to be ridiculously frigid in there, just freeze your nose and ears off. Frigid. And it does have good stuff in there too. This guy likes shiny things, so when it's keeping treasure, it's particularly keeping diamonds and gold. It doesn't really have any interest in art or magical items. This one wants money and shiny things because it is a simple creature with simple tastes.
All that glitters is in fact gold. All right, Emmy. Silver dragons, in contrast to the white dragons we were just discussing, are actually very sociable. They're definitely the type to polymorph into some, lovable old person and make their way into your local village and possibly even buy you a drink. It's such a wonderfully refreshing take on a dragon personality. I love it.
These guys, keeping in that theme of most dragons have a converse, have an opposite. These guys are completely different. And unlike the copper dragons we've discussed earlier, which can get a little weird and suffer from needing jokes and loneliness, these guys they're nice. They're just friendly. They want you to live a virtuous life. And I really imagine them as like the Bob Ross of dragons, where they're just so happy to see you. Here, welcome to my lair. There are no accidents here. It's fine.
Yeah. Taking a look at the art in the book, you can definitely see this almost glowing smile on his face. And also, might I add, a badass mohawk frill.
Oh my gosh, I know.
These smooth scales of almost like a gunmetal, or I think it was like an opaline swirling color to it. It's just gorgeous. And yeah, he looks like he might offer you a cup of tea if you stumble upon his cave up in the mountains. They definitely love to be high up in the clouds.
I love going on to like hit what almost looks like hairstyles. It looks like he's kind of got this beard happening with the frills along his face and with the mohawk. I'm imagining kind of like this aging punk who's just, you know, still like down with the evil system, but also have a cup of tea and let's just be friends now. And there's something weird happening with his wings where he's got like these two claws coming off of them. And to me, it almost looks like peace sign, dude. Like it's very strange and silly to me that, and yeah, he just looks like a good guy to hang out with.
And they definitely promote a life of piousness or even in virtue. They definitely see them as the keepers of what is morally right and wrong. And we all know there's going to be that one person in town, whether it's in your party or a local farmer or merchant, who wants to test the limits and the lines of what is morally right. They're definitely curious dragons. We know it's definitely a theme among most of the good aligned dragons, but they seem to take an interest in races or creatures that have shorter lives than them. And with that comes an interest in collecting things that demonstrate the diversity among those creatures. They're definitely interested in collecting coins or currency of different races, such whether it be of dwarven make, of elven, of humanoid. They love collecting history items. A whole ship is something that they would be interested in. Not like, you know, the bust or like the mast, but the whole thing itself. One particular note that says in the monster manual, they're interested in collecting the ashes of old kings and queens.
I get an Indiana Jones vibe from this guy. It belongs in a museum. Like
Totally.
The idea of being able to, from his perspective or her perspective, of course, to be able to preserve something that, I feel like this guy would absolutely let you in to look at it if he thought you were nice and or worthy to. That there's this idea of, I've kept this all here to make sure that humanity will be able to remember its roots, and I'll be able to look at it and maybe be able to try and figure out what these creatures are like, because they're very different from me, and I just want to know. I want to have that sense of knowledge. I do think that it could be, especially considering these guys are lawful as a rule, that it could be interesting, the idea of getting on the wrong side of this guy. I think you could probably talk your way out of it. Because he is curious, but I do think that you could probably get on this guy's bad side because he can be a little bit pious, a little bit observant, a little bit holier than thou, almost on accident.
I definitely think this type of dragon would love a good debate.
Yes.
The consequences of offending him during that debate would be intense. Just like every other dragon we've talked about, an ancient dragon is going to have some incredibly powerful abilities between bite, tail, claw attacks.
Yes.
It has the gamut, and
its alternative
tread cautiously.
Breath is paralyzing breath, which again, going back to with the metallic dragons having two breaths and they complement each other a little bit. I'm imagining, since this guy is a cold dragon, him going, stop, hold on, what do you got? Drop it, put it back.
And again, if you offend him, it's almost as if that old adage of that dad saying, nope, it's because I say so.
Yeah. Nope. Nope. What? And it's the environmental effects it has are.
Oh my God. As pure and as righteous as they appear to be, one of the most hysterical ones that I've read was that strong winds like help buoy creatures that fall in a within its region. So I could just imagine you hiking up this mountainside and then an unfortunate goat that took a tumble just drifting its way to safety. You take no fall damage. It falls at 60 feet per round. You take no fall damage. So like,
It's so sweet. And it goes again back to that complementary thing where if you're trying to get to a white dragon, the environment itself is your enemy. Getting to it is going to be impossible. And this guy does live in some challenging places. It lives in places that are cold. It lives in places that are windy. It lives really up high. So you're going to have to hike to get to it. But it doesn't want that to be the deterrent for you to get to it. It wants you to be able to come up and say hi. So if you fall down, it's just going to be like, it's okay. Just start again. You'll learn something from the journey from the bottom up. It's going to be fine.
It's kind of the equivalent of that scene in Bridesmaids where this really rich woman is inviting you to come to her house, and there's a very long driveway, and halfway along the way, somebody just offers you a lemonade.
Yeah, just hi.
Because they know it's so hard to get inside.
I know this is a journey. Just take this. It's going to be just fine.
Oh, I love it. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of The Bestiary as we continue our wonderful exploration of the namesake of the game, dragons. White, silver, very polar opposites. See what I did there? Tell us what you think about these two wonderful creatures. Leave us a comment below. What would you offer a silver dragon as a representation of the human race, the elven race, the dwarven race? Would you attempt to make the snowy trek to a white dragon's lair? Do you think yourself capable enough of surviving the cold and the beast behind it? Like the video, help us share this information that we've got here. Comment down below. If you're interested in helping out the channel, continue to make wonderful videos, we have a link to our Patreon down below. Doesn't take a whole much to help us out, but we really do appreciate it. Thanks so much, y'all.